Don't talk to your kids about carnivore nutrition. Don't talk to them about any of it.
Hey, carnivores and friends, it's Rochelle, the Real Life Carnivore. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for this series that I'm doing on carnivore mothers. There have been some really powerful shares and just chock full of information. I think you guys are going to be blown away by the information that these carnivore mamas have to share. And I hope that you watch all of the videos. I hope that you like and subscribe. Drop us a comment below. Let us know what your favorite parts were, if it was helpful or not, and what you'd like to see more of. And without further ado, let's get into this next interview. I'm so excited to introduce to you Amy. She is a carnivore mom of two and a coach in the Steak and Butter gang. Amy, I'm so pumped to sit here and have this conversation with you today. Can you please tell us a little bit about who you are?
I'm about 20 months into carnivore, and I do have a 17 and 18-year-old, both girls. I am a sugar addict who ate so much sugar that ended up giving myself kidney disease. I didn't know that's what had done it for a long time, but then researching, I figured out it was the sugar. Long story short, I had healed my kidney disease with ribeyes and fasting, and then gained all my weight back, plus 30 pounds more, got really scared, and then went back to carnivore very seriously for a few months, and then started with Steak and Butter Gang in the fourth month, and I've been there since. So I truly believe that's what has kept me on task and learning more, learning things like learning from you, learning recipes from you, um,
You're so
learn
sweet.
learning how to tackle everyday life through our members. Now I'm in a spot where I am experimenting a little and trying some new things, but mostly I feel like I'm really enjoying it. Like I'm finally to the place where when I eat something, I'm like, wow, this is really good. I still get meat aversion pretty quickly, but if I do eat something that's not non-carnivore, I'm always shocked that it doesn't taste good at all, or
Wow.
it only tastes slightly good. Once in a while, I have something I'm like, that's my old life, you know? And I'll be
Yeah.
like, that tastes like my old life. But now when I'm enjoying a carnivore food, I really feel glad that I made it this far because it's almost like a spiritual experience, when you're really enjoying a meat that you're eating and you feel like it's doing good things to your body. I really enjoy that now. So took all this time to get there though.
I'm curious, how did you land at carnivore with the kidney disease? How did that come about?
My doctor had said to me, you have the blood work of a 90-year-old. What's going on? Because there were other things going on too. I had like high platelet count. I was almost pre-diabetic. I had to do blood work like every 3 weeks to start, a little bit worse, and I was going to have to consider dialysis. I was like, whoa. In my head, I was like, I might be in some trouble here. I I guess I better take this seriously. I started research because my numbers weren't going back up. I found some weird YouTube video about a guy who ate ribeyes and healed his kidneys. I've never been able to find it again, but he ate ribeyes. And I was like, I would consider that because I knew about carnivore because I had been paleo like a decade before that. And actually, this same size right now, or same weight, but completely different body, same weight, body completely different when I was smaller on paleo. So I knew about carnivores because Amber O'Hearn used to come into our paleo chat and she'd say, why not just eat meat? Because she was experimenting with eating meat. That's how new our community is. Nobody knew about it, but she knew about it. And I always thought it was kind of sexy what she said when she's like, why not just eat meat? Why not this? And people would be like, no, no, no. I had that in my memory when this guy said this. And I was like, okay, must be carnivore. And then I came across another guy who said not just fasting, but dry fasting for kidney health. And he was like very humdrum type of guy, like looked like a librarian, glasses. I was like, this guy's not trying to be famous. He really believes this. So then I started to put those two things together in my mind. I found Jason Fung and Megan Ramos and joined their private fasting community. And I slowly started to eat ribeyes, and I hated it. Hated eating
Really?
ribeyes.
You really
I
hated
did.
ribeyes?
I did. And I like previously I would have gotten a ribeye in a restaurant or whatever, but I like to eat ribeyes with mashed potatoes, baked
Yep.
potato.
Yep.
I didn't know how to cook them that well. So yeah, I just cooked them poorly and ate them, and I was miserable. And then I started fasting. I was like, oh, now I don't have to eat ribeyes. But so I ate, so that helped a little because starvation is the best vice or whatever they say. So I would fast as best I could, which was miserable because it wasn't steak and butter nourished fasting. It was white knuckle fasting. And then I would eat ribeye. I kind of branched out into a little bit of chicken here and there, a few things. And Funk's community is a lot of them are keto. They ate keto, no carnivores in there though. Over the course of time, I didn't lose hardly any weight. I lost like, I don't know, 25 pounds or something.
You really consider
But
25 pounds hardly any weight, Amy?
well, next to 7.
Okay. Still pretty significant.
Actually, the reason I say that because when I did gain it back and I gained 30 pounds extra, I was pretty shocked. I was like, "What? Wow, I gained 30 pounds over what I already was." I also found Cole Robinson at that time, who was also advocating fasting and dry fasting for kidney health, which I don't know if very many people know who he is, but he's kind of crazy. And I was crazy. I was into crazy at that moment because I was desperate, right? My doctor wasn't really giving me any answers. They were still trying to determine why it was happening. When I looked at all the numbers and started researching every number in my blood work, I realized it's because I was becoming diabetic. This is about me eating massive amounts of sugar. Originally, I thought it was about, I took a lot of allergy medicine. Like I would take a regular allergy pill and then I'd take Benadryl to to quell my allergies. Originally, I was like, oh, this is because I take too much allergy medicine, never admitting that, I was probably thinking that while I was eating Twizzlers. I looked at the blood work, I was like, well, looks like it, the chickens have come to roost. This is caught up with me. So that was very apparent to me, and I was scared to eat any sugar. It took me about 9 months, and my numbers improved and kept improving. My doctor, I didn't really tell her what I was doing. All I said was, like, at one point I was supposed to get some more blood work, and I asked to wait an additional. I said, give me a month, give me 1 month. And in that month, I ate ribeyes and fasted. I went and did my blood work, and my numbers started moving in the positive direction. So
Yes.
then I was like, okay, this stuff is working. During the course of that time, I fully could feel the effects of my kidney disease. Like my brain was muddled. I had trouble walking my dog. I took my girls with me in case I fell down. My blood was like dirty, kind of. It was like my body wasn't filtering stuff out, and I felt toxic. I didn't feel better. Even when my numbers improved, I started to feel better after that. Then, of course, I went back down the sugar hole. That's how powerful it is. It saved my life and then went back down the sugar hole. It was a weird thing that I found it because when I found it, I thought these people are kind of loony. And then I was like, I'm going to be loony. I mean, if I have to be loony, that's what I'm going to do. I tried after I gained all the weight back, before I weighed myself, actually, before I knew the total truth. I tried to go back on carnivore many times, many times. I didn't really want to fast again, but I tried to go back to carnivore many times. I started watching Laura Spath. I started, paying attention to the pundits and all the suggestions. I could never do it. I never could do it. And then I went to my doctor's office with my daughter, who had the same doctor, and I was like, I'm gonna weigh myself on this scale because that was the last scale I weighed on. And that's when I found out that I was like 200 pounds. I was like, well, I guess I screwed myself here, and this is definitely going to affect my kidneys. I got scared, and that was in July, and I said August 1, I'm going to go all carnivore all the way. Three or four things I did differently than I had been doing to keep trying to get back on. I decided to use an electrolyte, and I decided to use an electrolyte with stevia in it. And I drank that like it was manna from heaven. I mean, like 3 times a day, I drank that. I was like, ice it all up, make it cold. I drank it. And I was like, this is so great. Second thing I did is I took lipase because I didn't want to deal with the diarrhea. One of the times I had tried and made it like 4 days, I was eating chicken thighs that I had put butter on them, and so they were even fattier. Someone's like in one of the forums, like World Carnivore Forum or something like that. She's like, don't eat any fatty meat. I'm like, I'm
But
not going to survive if I don't eat fatty meat. You know, that's ridiculous. But some other guy said, just use lipase. I was like, okay, what is lipase? So then I researched that. It's just an enzyme that we already naturally make. That was a game changer. I took 1 or 2 lipase with every meal for 3 months. And that's how long it took for my diarrhea to go away too. But that was a game changer because, carnivore diarrhea when you're transitioning is different than when you have the flu or something. It's literally like you could be walking down the street. That's it, you know,
yep,
that's
yep,
it.
it is.
No warning, right? So I was like, I'm not going to deal with that. I don't want to. And then the third thing I did is I didn't restrict any eating. I didn't do any fasting. I ate as much as I want, as many times a day as I wanted. And the fourth thing I did was a cream cheese trick where for some reason, well, I guess I know why it does this, but after a meal, my sugar cravings would go crazy right after I ate.
Yep.
That's when I wanted something sweet, which was my MO. Previously, I would eat like a huge meal with gravy, any starch I want. I didn't eat vegetables then either, but any starch I wanted, shovel it all in. After that, I would go to the sugar. I start on the sugar. So it's like I only ate all that, so then I could have the sugar, and then I could have that feeling of being completely full and distracting myself from any problems, being almost anesthetized like a zombie. That was what I wanted to do, Yogi. That was what I wanted to do was get to that point, but only on carnivore food. So I ate as much as I wanted, which wasn't honestly as much as we eat during priming because that's a whole nother level of, trying to get satiated.
Yes,
And
it
then,
is.
yeah. So the cream cheese, I would have the cream cheese after a meal, and I could feel my sugar craving just go down. So I was like, this is working. And sometimes I would put a little bit of stevia in it and some cinnamon, and I would heat it up in the microwave. Or sometimes I put a little bit of butter with it. I'm lazy, so probably could have made a recipe or something, but or looked up a recipe is more accurate. But I didn't. That's what I would do. I just pop it in the microwave. I'd eat it. If I got cravings again in between meals, I would eat it more. I lost, I think, 18 pounds the first 3 months. It was mostly in the
Wow.
first 2 weeks because I think the inflammation in my body was so high that I lost, poundage in inflammation. And then I found steak and butter. And for the first month, the fourth month of carnivore, I just watched the meetings and didn't say anything. I don't even think I was on camera. I may have been, but I just watched. And I was also still having the artificial sugar in the nectar. And so nectar is the electrolyte that I drink. It's called nectar. I was like, well, I can't do steak and butter because I'm not supposed to have artificial sugar in their program. So then I was like, by the time I got through 3/4 of the month, I was lurking. I was like, well, I guess I'll give it a go and try to cut out the artificial sugar. And a horrible thing happened the
Uh-oh.
day before, the day before the new month started. I was like, this is my last day to have my electrolyte drink. And I tasted it and it didn't taste good. And
Ooh.
I was so angry at Coach Raymond. I was like, that damn Coach Raymond. It's because I've been brainwashed this whole month and now I think it doesn't. But I think it was a natural progression of I needed it. I used it when I needed it as a bridge. And then I was finally kind of done with it. That's what happened is I didn't have to force myself not to do the sugar my first month of steak and butter gang because it didn't taste good to me anymore, which made me angry. How'd you find steak and butter gang?
I actually found the Steak and Butter Gang through Instagram. I started looking at hashtags for carnivore because I started looking at carnivore recipes when my husband and I went carnivore back in October of 2022. And I came across Bella's page and she started talking about her community, her community, her community. And I was like, what is her community? And so I went and looked it up and I saw there was like 11,000 members. And I was like, what? There's more than 5 people who do this in the world? Like, I knew that, but I didn't know that. And then when I saw her community, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to watch a couple of her videos and just check her out and see kind of her credentials and all this kind of stuff. And then as I listened to her talk and I listened to an interview with Raymond and then one with Emily, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be a part of this. I think it was November. I said to my husband, I'm like, I want to join for 30 days as an early birthday gift to myself. And I think it'll help me be accountable because I need community in order to succeed in this because I'm not going to succeed by
Yes.
myself. So I know me with my sugar addiction. I was like, it's not going to happen. And so that's when I started was I think it was November of 2022. So it's been over a year and a half. And I mean, there's no other community I would rather go to. Hearing all of the success stories and like meeting all these amazing people like yourself, my heart is there. I'm like, I just want to be in
Yeah.
this all the time.
It definitely helps get through the hard parts, you know?
Community is so important. And that kind of leads me into my next question for you because community is one thing, but who you live under one roof with is another thing. So can you talk to me a little bit about how was your family in receiving the information that you were going to become carnivore? Did you outright just tell them? Like, how did you have that conversation and how did it go?
I was actually lucky in that regard, only because my family was already okay, my immediate family, my husband and my two daughters, they were already scared to death because I had had the kidney disease and they had seen me do crazy stuff. And so they didn't question a thing. They were terrified. They were like, you know, just coming off of that and they were like, do whatever you need to do, kind of mentality. So my husband, okay, all three of them they're not sugar addicts. Okay. My husband, he would still have stuff like ding dongs. Ding dongs in the ding dongs are like a for people who don't live where ding dongs are like chocolate with whipped cream inside, all processed.
Processed cakes.
Yes, very bad for you. One of my favorite things to eat when I was eating sugar. So there were ding dongs in the cabinet. There were other things in the house too, but for some reason I was like ding dongs, ding dongs, ding dongs. And I go and check and see how many were left all the time. And they were in there for like a month and a half. I was like, who's letting these ding dongs sit here for this long?
Yeah, because
Are they
like we wouldn't
crazy?
do that.
I wouldn't do that. I mean, they'd be gone like within a matter of days, hours. There was that time frame where nobody had changed anything they were eating yet. And I didn't push it on them, but I only cooked meat. So people in my family started eating a lot more meat. Gradually, people stopped eating other things. There was no resistance because I didn't really push on it. But I will say that my daughter Hannah ended up going paleo because she found that it makes her feel better for her sport. So she started going paleo. And so she was on the bandwagon with me 100%. And then my older daughter, who's actually the real athlete of the family and very fit, she never really ate horribly, but she loves meat. So she eats meat. My husband, he ate one thing, Mexican ground beef. I bought it's chorizo seasoning for sausage. I bought it on the internet and I put it in ground beef instead of taco seasoning because it's just one ingredient and works great for taco seasoning. And he liked that. So he ate it almost every single day.
Oh,
And
wow.
I explained to him, like, can you I don't want to be a widow. Can you get on board here with this? Yada yada. He had some blood work that showed his triglycerides were slightly high, and his dad passed from heart disease. I was like, you need to do this. Well, he tried really hard, and he did. He never gave up Monsters or 7 Up, but he did change what he ate for breakfast, which was no longer coffee cake, thank God, because that was in the house, coffee cake, or Danish or donuts. He started eating bacon and eggs every single morning. He lost 30 pounds. His
Wow.
triglycerides went back down. But then he came to me one day and he said, I'm not going to do carnivore anymore. And I want to see you're not doing carnivore now. I don't know what,
Yep.
you're drinking Monster, but he's like, I'm not going to do carnivore anymore. I'm like, that's all right. Just, please don't go back to coffee cake. That's kind of where it is now, where he does his thing, my daughters do their thing, I do my thing. But when you go through my house, there's not that much sugar in it anymore. And when I went carnivore August 1, I used to bake cakes and cupcakes and
Hmm.
decorate them. I love that. I love to make homemade homemade frosting because I love to eat homemade frosting.
You and me both.
And yeah. Are you buttercream or whipped cream
Both.
style?
I like both. I am
That's a
not
good
biased.
answer.
I like both.
That's a good answer.
And I would always
Yeah.
double the batch so I could eat half of it and then put the other
Yeah.
half on whatever I was
Yeah.
making.
So I threw everything, or I donated to Goodwill and then I threw stuff away. But I got rid of it because I was like, I can never bake a cake again. This is something I can't do. And that's what I would do. I would bake something, I'd put it in the fridge, and I tell the family, I made cupcakes for so and so. There's 12 in the fridge, 12 left over. I
Accountability.
would probably eat 8 of them,
Yeah.
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 So like they would eat them, they didn't want them, and I would eat them. I'd be like, why are we wasting these homemade cupcakes? And then I'd eat them. That doesn't happen anymore. And then, I mean, there's still some cinnamon toast crunch in the house. There, there is some chocolate hidden in a freezer. That's my husband's. I
Well,
found it the other
you know
day.
that it's hidden.
Um,
It's not really hidden.
right now it's not hidden. And but other than the cinnamon toast crunch, oh, and my daughter's paleo cookies, which I do eat her paleo cookies once in a while, but they don't really trigger me. They're not sweet enough.
Which is a good
They're-
sign that
yeah,
carnivore is working for you and that
yeah,
it's a lot of healing for you, especially around the sugar addiction aspect, which I
yeah,
relate to you on too, as a
yeah.
former sugar
Right,
addict, sugar
exactly.
eater.
Those and those don't trigger me. But I'll tell you, I went to my mom's. My dad had a fall, and so I was literally spending the night in the hospital with my mom, and then I spent the night at their house for a week. And it was right, he fell on Easter. And I told this story in the meeting, but I've been bragging kind of. I've been like, I eat my daughter's paleo cookies once in a while, and it's no big deal, I'm fine, whatever. I'm a moderator. So she had sugar covered Tootsie Rolls, which they didn't have when I was eating sugar. They're Tootsie Rolls with some kind of sugar coating on the outside in
Oh
pink,
my gosh.
yellow, green,
Like
blue.
candy coating, basically.
Yeah, a candy coating. And those were in the bowl. And then Hershey's eggs. some Peeps, which I never really liked Peeps. So then didn't turn me on that much. That would be like an emergency, like the last sugar thing in the
Yeah.
house before I'd
Yep.
go to the Peeps.
Yep.
Um, and that was it. And so I looked at the bowl and I was like, this is gonna be trouble. This is gonna be trouble. Because I immediately felt lit up. I was like the colors, the memories of Easter candy. So the very first night we were home, and it was stressful. I mean, we were like my dad had pretty decent fall and he's fine now, but it was stressful. Like we were doing things in the middle of the night. I was up with him and stuff. I ate 8 or 9 of the Tootsie Roll things. I ate 8 or 9 of the Hershey eggs things. That was the first night. And then the next day, like I kind of felt it's the first time I really went into the sugar, down the sugar hole.
Real
Um,
sugar.
yeah, since I went carnivore. I mean, I hadn't even really like went to a wedding or something. I wouldn't even have a bite of cake. I knew that was something that I loved, so I wouldn't have a bite of cake. But I was in a different environment. I was stressed. I did have some food with me, which I ate. I ate some carnivore food, but I still went down the sugar hole. And so then the next night, I was like talking myself through it, eating. I think I got by with, I can't remember, but it was less, like 5 or something. And then the next night, I got away with like 2, and that was it. And then I didn't want it anymore, but it scared me a little bit because I was like, that's what happened when I went back to eating sugar after my kidney numbers cleared. I had a little tiny package of miniature gummy bears at my desk, and they had been sitting there, and I put them in my hand the day they cleared me from my blood work. And I remember looking and I was like, should I eat these? I was like, yeah, I'll eat them. How stupid, right? Yeah, I'll eat them. And I ate those. That was it. So I was like, is this what's going to happen now? Now that I'm ingratiated myself into steak and butter gang community, I'm supposed to like be doing I'm supposed to be towing the line. I'm supposed to be a model of perfection. Clearly I'm not, what am I going to do? I was kind of watching myself like, what are you going to do, Amy? You're going to how you gonna fix this? So I didn't have any solutions to fix it except I just kept eating my way back into meat
Mhm.
and fat. And so I spent the rest of the days there just fine. But also there were hardly any pieces of candy in the candy dish anymore.
Well, when there's nothing left to eat, then you have to eat what you brought and you have to
You
eat
know what my
sugar.
mom did? My mom, she wanted to buy these things called mini eggs from Hershey's, and they are like the Hershey's chocolate with the hard coating, and they're little.
Yeah, I know
They look
exactly
like
what you're
little,
talking about. I know
yes,
exactly what you're talking
they're the
about.
best
Yeah.
Easter candy of all Easter candies. So she says to me, listen, my mom's 80, 86 or 85, and she's a little tiny 4'8" woman. Well, she's probably 4'10", but she's
Those
like,
two
can you
inches matter.
go? So can you go to Walgreens and get me the 50% off candy? That particular candy. Get as many bags as they have.
Oh
And I
my.
was like, and see, my mom's not a sugar addict either. I mean, that's the thing is you have to be careful when you're not with your tribe, right?
Correct.
So I was like, okay, and I thought, it's not good. I said, Mama, I love that. That's my favorite candy. And she says, "Oh, get yourself a bag." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I can't do that." Because she knew I was struggling each night with the candy bowl. So then, it doesn't matter if she hid it or not. If I wanted it, I was going to find it, right?
Yeah,
It's
of
like a drug
course.
addict.
Yep.
I did find the bags of candy. I gave them to her and I set them down on this stand and I was like, okay, can you please put those somewhere else that I don't know where they are? And an hour later, they were still sitting there, and it was like the ding dongs. I was like, Mom, can you put these somewhere else? Because even though I feel like could withstand it by that day of the week, I didn't want to, I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to deal with it. I wanted to go back to my carnivore happiness. Just looking at the bag lit me up. So after that, I was like, well, I am a moderator with paleo cookies, but not with Easter candy. I can't be cocky
Yeah.
like that because prime protein, things like that, those don't really give me cravings. Those are kind of some of the things I've been experimenting with to help me get more protein in. Those don't give me cravings. Well, I bought those prime protein bars.
Oh, okay, how are they? Have you tried them?
I bought one box. It took me about there are 12 in a box. Took me 4 days to finish off the whole box.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can't eat these because those did light me up.
Yep.
I can't eat Quest bars either. That's an old favorite from my paleo days. I can't eat Quest bars. The chewiness, like that's my jam. I like that
Protein
kind of
bars of
thing. I can't
any
eat
kind.
those.
Yeah, protein bars of any kind I can. I used to binge eat protein bars. I would literally
Yeah.
go visit my friend in the downtown core of Calgary where he worked in a supplement shop. And I would buy hundreds of dollars worth of protein bars. And it was a 35-minute drive home. And I would eat as many as I could in that 35-minute drive. And
And they
sometimes
have
it
the
was like
kind of
12
sugar in it
bars.
that gives you indigestion.
Oh, man, you want to talk about
It's like,
gas and bloating? That's
yeah,
not from
gas.
vegetables? Fake sugar. Fake
Yeah,
sugar. Oh man, brutal, brutal. Yeah, it's not
exactly.
pleasant. I'm glad that you recognize that, and I think it's very important to recognize that. Amy, I wanted to ask you, can you tell me if you could share your top 5 tips for how carnivores can talk to their children about nutrition? What would be your top 5 tips that you would give to a carnivore mom or someone who's considering talking to their kids about carnivore and nutrition?
Let's say number one, don't talk to your kids about carnivore nutrition. If you're gonna raise your kids carnivore or try to do it when they're already almost raised, like mine are already cooked, don't talk to them about any of it. My kids won't watch this, so I can say this, but I have a reverse psychology policy. So like if one of my girls might be dating someone that I don't really like, then I tell them how much I like them and how great they are. And oh, I just get so excited when they talk about it because I learned this from my parents that you don't want to say, I don't like that guy, he's a jerk, because as soon as you say that, then she's just gonna glom onto him like he's the greatest thing ever.
Right, our defenses go
So
up.
yeah, like I'm right, he's fine, da da da. Da. So it's kind of the same thing with food because there aren't very many things in our lives, all of our lives, even as we're children, that are so intimate as food. And for you and me, it's like food is our friend, right? Food is, even now, food is our friend. We use our carnivore food to calm our anxieties. We use our carnivore food to give us that carnivore calm that we can't get any other way. And we did that with sugar too. Well, when you go and you try to grab that from someone and preach to them, especially if they're in your family, I feel like it just pushes them away. So my first thing is don't talk to them about it at all. But my second thing is live it, model it. And like I said, it was just gradual. I started cooking meat all the time. And my kids are older, but you look at the Solts, for example, their
Yes.
little baby is sitting there eating eating oysters, and they just had a carnivore baby. You had a carnivore baby, your baby's going to grow up in a carnivore life. But if it's not that, then just start modeling it. People will start paying attention. Like,
Agreed.
yeah, they'll start paying attention. Your kids will pay attention. I mean, I lost 70 pounds in 12 sizes. So my kids really notice that, like they're giving me their old clothes. So they saw the power of it without me saying anything. The third thing would be if you want people to eat carnivore food, then make it taste good. And
Yes.
you know this,
Yes.
Rochelle, because you have the talent of making recipes. I don't really, but like there are some things that I'll bring to family holidays, like the carnivore chili, which I ripped somewhere off the internet. It's like 2 pounds of bison or buffalo, 1 pound of chorizo sausage, and one stick of butter in the Instant Pot. Or you can just put it in a regular pot on the stove top and you break it all up. You add a little bit of water. And I bring it to family holidays with diced up red onion, some shredded cheese, and some sour cream. It's very popular. If you want people to eat your meat in your family, make the meat taste good. I learned that with my kids. Yeah, they like steak, but if I make steak all the time for them, they're not going to eat it all the time. So I'll make Italian wedding soup, which I love Italian wedding soup. So I was like, how can I make this so I can eat it? They love that. That's easy. That's just ground beef, Parmesan, some regular ground sausage, and then you drop it into boiling chicken broth,
Sounds
and it is
delicious.
delish. Yeah. And so, like, when I make it, I'll eat 6 or 7 meals in a row of it. That's the thing. Make food that people like to eat, and they'll eat more carnivore. The fourth thing is don't be a policeman,
Agreed.
because everybody, even if they're your children and you still claim them as a dependent on your taxes, you don't own them, right? You have to let people have their own discoveries. If you don't let them have their own discoveries, and that might be your sister, your mom, your brother-in-law, whatever. It doesn't have to be your kid. If you don't let people have their own discoveries, then they're not going to make it a part of them. And so if you police people, I do police my husband though. But
That's a different story.
yeah, that's completely
Story
different.
for another time.
If you don't police people, then they can embrace it themselves. My fifth thing, this is kind of a weird thing to say, sounds very self-involved. When I'm somewhere, I'm very aware of the other women around me and how miserable they look in an airport or an amusement park or a convention or something like that. I'll go through and I'll count the women that look healthy. And I always think all of these women are me, you know? I have the desire to go to them and show them my before picture. I don't. I can feel it. Like when I go somewhere and I've got my leggings on and I look like I've been this way my whole life, only been this way for a very short time. And it could go back at any time. So when I go somewhere, I can feel their eyes on me. And I have this immediate desire to go over and say, would you look at my before picture? Would you like
Oh,
to do carnivore? And of course I don't because they might call the police, but I have that same feeling when my family goes somewhere because right now, none of us are heavy. My girls are way prettier than I ever was. When we go, I am very aware of that. And so I think I've never asked them, but I think they also see that when we go and we eat or we're around people, they are seeing that our family is looking happy and healthy. And I think they see a lot of value in that.
it would be to be united, like be a
Yeah,
united front, like be united with your family and their process and
yeah.
in your process.
But even if one of us was heavy or one of us was unhealthy, it's kind of like I want people to realize that if one person changes what they do in the family, it affects the whole family, especially if it's the mom or the dad. So you don't have to say anything. They will start to catch on. They will start like my daughter, my youngest daughter, she was a little chubby girl. She had baby reflux and they put her on rice cereal very early, like rice, oatmeal, all the toxins, right?
Yeah.
To keep it heavy. So she I firmly believe that made her a little fat kid, like when it's hard to be fat in elementary school. Now she's gorgeous, and I actually miss that little roly-poly kid. It's but it's like when your mom is not handing out when okay, this is one thing that happens when you're a mom and your kids are in any activity, it's snack time. Okay,
Right.
so yeah, it's snack time all the time. You go to soccer, it's snack time. Somebody is assigned to bring snacks. The school has constant snacks. And my kids never ever had hot lunch. Anything, like even right now, one of my daughters is getting ready to go to prom, and the moms have a group chat, and they're like, "What snacks should we have during pictures?" I'm like, "Why do you need snacks? You don't need snacks. Just do the
Yes.
damn pictures."
Yeah.
But that's what happens is my kids are able to go between meals just fine, or with no meals because they eat so much protein and fat. But most kids, they have already been part of the snack generation.
Yeah.
And so that is something that you have to fight against with school when your kids go to school. If you're not homeschooling, I didn't homeschool, but my kids went to a charter school and there were snacks all the time. And they're not, they say bring healthy snacks. And a healthy snack, you and I know what that is. Granola bar,
Yeah.
fruit,
Life
whatever.
is sweet, you mean?
And yeah, yeah. My daughter was in band and it's snack heaven. If you can put your family into that umbrella of carnivore calm and you go somewhere, you're able to get through a family function without getting all emotional or irate. If you can be with your family somewhere where there might be some tension or there might be some little arguments, your family's going to deal with it so much better because they didn't just come off of big sugar high for breakfast, cinnamon rolls for breakfast or whatever.
Right.
So
We're nourished.
yeah, I like what you said though. What I was trying to say is that it unites the family. It keeps the family working in a healthy way when there's good things going into their bodies.
Agreed. Agreed. And Amy, as we're coming to a close of our time today, what would be your number one piece of advice to give someone who is just starting out on carnivore or who was considering starting carnivore?
My number one piece is forgiveness. And I say that forgiveness and grace because so many people get caught up in minutia because they're trying to be absolutely perfect. It's such a journey. Like, I mean, you and I talk about it. How are you reacting to this? Are you doing this? Because it's an experiment on yourself. And you don't go into it saying, I am failing this experiment. You're not failing the experiment. An experiment cannot be failed. It's just an experiment. So my number one piece of advice is don't plan on everything being like this, where you're just like a badass right away. You have to allow for yourself to make adjustments as you go. And you can't do that if you're blaming yourself and coming down on yourself every time you do something that's not carnivore. That's not what this is about. It's about finding out what works for you, sometimes using bridges. Like I remember when steak and butter guy had hot sauce, Bella gave him hot sauce and he had hot sauce on every piece of meat when he was transitioning. And that's the kind of thing. I mean, it's okay to use bridges. It's okay to not give up every single thing right at the beginning if you need to. Now, if you're going to be in steak and butter gang, for example, there's such a structure that you have support. So if you do go all balls to the wall, you have support. But if you take a step back, you didn't. It's like my Easter candy thing. I'm not going to freak out because I'm going to look at it and observe it. And I'm going to say, like I said, I was like, Amy, what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with it? And so that's how you have to be. You cannot emotionally absorb every mistake you make. It's going to kill you. It's awful. You have to be looking at it like, I'm doing this experiment and I'm going to gather information, just like Coach Redmond says. I'm going to gather information, and the information is going to give me more knowledge and a better weapon against the things that plague me. That's my number one thing. Don't get caught up in minutia because you're being so hard on yourself. You can't get through the day.
I love that. And how can people connect with you if they want to follow you, follow your journey, if they want to reach out to you? How can they connect with you, Amy?
I'm Carnivore Amy in Instagram, and that's mostly where I live. And then, of course, I recommend you come to Steak and Butter Gang and join Steak and Butter Gang because that's where all the cool carnivores are, including Rochelle.
Awesome. Well, Amy, it has been an absolute pleasure having you join me today. And thank you for sharing your story and your best tips for carnivore moms. I'm really looking forward to airing this episode and just getting the word out to encourage other people, other moms, to know that there are ways to implement things without forcing your family to change. There are subtle ways to do things and ways to implement change that I think are just very nourishing for the whole family. So thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you, Rochelle.
If you guys enjoyed this interview and want more content, don't hesitate to hit the subscribe button and click on the little bell so you'll get notified every time I upload new content. If you want to connect with Amy, or if you want to become a member of the Steak and Butter Gang that we have been chatting about on this video, we would love to see you there. There will be a link to join below. You can join the free community, or you can join the 30-day challenge that is run by our beautiful friend, Bella, the Steak and Butter Gal. This is Rochelle, the Real Life Carnivore. Have a great day. Bye for now.